Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our final episode of Daybreak. I'm your producer, Cole Schultes.
And I'm your producer, Samantha Hindman. We couldn't be happier to close out our tenure at UView by hosting our beloved favorite show. Though, of course, we might be biased.
You might be wondering why we're hosting. That's because of the tradition that Daybreak has for graduating seniors to be on camera for their final episode. Even people like me, who are making their Daybreak debut.
Go Cole! Woo! That's right! Today, you're gonna see all of our show's seniors for the last time, and for some, the first. You won't wanna miss it.
Wake up and smell the coffee, Pittsburgh, because the last Daybreak of the year starts right now.
Welcome back, everyone.
As usual, let's kick off today's episodes with some local events. Sam?
In tandem with our filming this evening is another fantastic Point Park event, the annual Pioneer Records Pioneer Star Showcase. Taking place at Stage AE, your 4 incredibly talented Point Park artists will be sharing their musical skills with the crowd as the 2024 Pioneer Stars. The groups and single artists performing this evening are Leandro Bileo, James VII, Jean Beau, and the Pit Crew. The best part about this spectacular event? Point Park students with valid IDs are allowed to attend entirely for free. We wish all of the performers the best of luck and give a huge congratulations to them all.
Pittsburgh police searched for human remains under a house in North Perry on Monday. The over 4-hour search began after a tip came to light from an incident from over 30 years ago. Pittsburgh Police Cold Case Detective George Salter said, quote, "We received a phone call approximately 2 weeks ago from a woman who was very, very young at the time, and she gave us information on her father possibly burying a body in the basement of their home. The woman, who's in her 40s now, was 4 years old at the time that this happened. She was home alone," end quote. The father was investigated for a homicide in Maine, making the tip credible. Detectives did not find any evidence below the house.
While humans had time to prepare for the eclipse that took place on Monday, April 8th, the same can't be said for local wildlife. Robert Merville, an ornithologist at the National Aviary, reported to KDKA that he noted no surprise at seeing birds exhibit nighttime behaviors during the eclipse. He noted that several birds, including the ground-dwelling blue-billed curassow, say that 5 times fast, took to tree perches for roosting earlier than usual to avoid nighttime predators. Merville mentioned that some birds might have quieted down or sung their evening songs during the eclipse, something that he witnessed with the robins in his own neighborhood. But this isn't just an avian phenomenon. According to a related study published by the National Library of Medicine, 3/4 of the species monitored showed some kind of behavioral reaction to the eclipse, primarily by starting their typical nighttime activities early. The second most common response observed was a display of anxiety, which makes sense considering their body's clock is being altered. It's definitely interesting how interconnected our bodily functions are with nature.
I always think about how animals with daylight savings time, like it messes with them pretty bad, especially if they're on a routine.
Yeah.
But I never considered the eclipse until recently.
Yeah, actually, our friend Gavin gave me inspiration for writing that story because whenever we were in Village Park watching the eclipse, he had mentioned that it messes with, birds and animals that are in hibernation or, just aren't used to there being no sun that early in the day. And so I did some digging, and there's a lot of evidence suggesting that it's common in a lot of animals.
That's wild. And especially because I saw some videos in zoos of it happening, and they're in safe habitats. So it kind of they're kind of together, I don't know, they're kind of in an environment where they're not at harm, but they still react the same way. It's just kind of their clock. And I can't think of that for animals who have to protect themselves at night too.
Yeah, definitely. And something else interesting is it's not the same with humans in terms of the eclipse impacting us, but it's actually really important for us to first thing in the morning get sunlight. And that's why they say, if you're on your phone or on technology late at night, it's going to mess with your sleep because your body is just so in tune with the amount of light that it's receiving. Even though we're, obviously sentient and we know something like the eclipse isn't actually the sun going away or us being on our phones, isn't it not being nighttime, our body's internal clock still has a hard time adjusting to that.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Before we dive into more news and a special someone makes their Daybreak debut, it's time for a short break.
We hope you're enjoying the senior episode so far, but don't worry, there are plenty more surprises in store.
Yep, we'll be right back, everyone.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that break.
Now it's time to dive into some interesting national news, from lawsuits to country stars. Cole, start us off.
Oman unveiled plans this week to upgrade its capital city. Muscat is set to unveil a $1.3 billion into a waterfront development. The complex is 3.3 million square meters and will include a residential complex, marina, cultural district, canal walkways, and a minstrel campus. The design associate director, Paolo Zilli, said, quote, "The vision is actually to remove all of the cars, to remove all the fences, and to create a campus with the ministry with many functions that can attract families and a new generation," end quote. The country's National Vision 2040 strategy estimates a population increase of 1.5 to 2.7 million by 2040, requiring the need for expansion. Construction is set to begin at the end of the year and includes nearly 600,000 homes.
The victims of last year's Norfolk Southern train derailment are finally seeing some movement in the legal process, as the company has recently settled their class action lawsuit. This settlement was for $600 million, and while that figure seems high, some of those personally impacted by the derailment are unsatisfied with the amount. Eric Kaza, who lived just 3 blocks from the derailment, stated, quote, "It's nowhere near my needs, let alone what the health impacts are going to be 5 or 10 years down the road," end quote. It is worth noting that in the first 3 months of 2024, Norfolk Southern has generated a whopping $3 billion in revenue. Though a year has passed since the incident, residents continue to report issues with breathing problems, numerous rashes, and nosebleeds. There is a growing concern that exposure to those chemicals may lead to cancer or other severe health problems. However, research into the long-term effects of the derailment is just beginning.
Morgan Wallen was arrested Monday morning, according to the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. Wallen was taken into police custody and charged with 3 felonies after allegedly throwing a chair off of a downtown rooftop. Metro Nashville police officers were just outside of Chiefs Bar when the incident occurred just feet from them, around 11 p.m. on Sunday. Surveillance footage caught Wallen lunging and throwing the chair on top of a 6-story building. He is facing 4 charges, including disorderly conduct and reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon, which is a Class E felony in Tennessee. Wallen is set to appear in court on May 3rd.
So, how about that? What the heck?
I understand. I feel like it'd be fun to just throw a chair off of a 6-story building.
Yeah, I guess maybe you're
I
a
just
celebrity,
don't know if in that scenario it was the best thing to do.
Yeah,
I feel
probably not.
I feel like it'd be a good like you know how there's like axe throwing rooms. Like
Yeah.
it would definitely be a good like anger management.
For sure. Maybe not in that context.
In an
though.
enclosed environment,
Yeah.
I feel.
Is this
would
the
be,
first time that Morgan Wallen has gotten into legal trouble? I don't think it is.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I haven't looked into that.
I think it's interesting. I feel like celebrities feel as though they have this kind of like immunity to the law, like they're above it or whatever. But unfortunately, money can only get them so far, you know?
He did get released on bail. I know that. I know
well,
he did
there
have
you
a
go.
bail set.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh
Yeah.
well. You win some, you lose some, am I right? Now it's time to toss things over to more entertainment news with our reporter, Gavin Anderson.
While Gavin is a Daybreak veteran and graduating senior, this is actually his first time on camera. It's both his debut and encore, and we couldn't be more grateful for him.
With that said, Gavin, take it away.
Speaking of musicians, attention music lovers, 2024 is shaping up to be a record-breaking year for new albums. Big names like Beyonce and Ariana Grande have already dropped highly anticipated projects, and the floodgates seem wide open. From Taylor Swift and Pearl Jam to Dua Lipa and Billie Eilish, the list of artists with upcoming releases goes on and on. It's enough to make you wonder, why the sudden surge? Industry experts are comparing this year to 2017, another time period bursting with blockbuster albums. Some, like Billboard, are surprised by the sheer volume of releases dropping in this typically quiet spring season. While exact reasons remain unclear, let's turn to Luminate, the company behind an annual year-end music industry report and the data that they gathered from 2023. Here's some telling data. On-demand music streaming skyrocketed nearly 35% in 2023 compared to the previous year, and Luminate also highlights the power of superfans in the report. Although only 18% of U.S. listeners fall into the category of being a superfan, they spend a staggering 126% more than the average listener on music. A superfan could be for Taylor Swift or Beyonce, the raging fans that you see outside of the concerts. In fact, the average music fan, not the superfan, spends a significant chunk of change, $116 a month on music and live events on average, which is a huge chunk when you think about it over the 12-month span. While Luminate's report doesn't directly connect 2023's success to the avalanche of releases in 2024, it certainly offers some intriguing clues. Could the loyalty of superfans and the booming streaming market be fueling the musical explosion that we're seeing now? Are artists all releasing music early this year to grow excitement for our summer and fall tours, like we're seeing the excitement of the Eras Tour and Beyonce's Renaissance Tour? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, get ready to hit shuffle because 2024 promises to be a year filled with incredible new music from every genre. What is the most you've spent on a concert ticket?
I have to be honest, I've only ever been to 3 concerts. One of them I won a ticket. The second time was whenever we went to see Pentatonics. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The Pentatonics Christmas concert. And that was like $30 maybe?
It wasn't
And then
bad.
my first concert was whenever I saw the Front Bottoms. And that was like $50, I want to say. So I haven't spent that much money. How about you? I feel like you've been to better concerts than me.
The most I've spent was $250,
Okay.
and that was on Post Malone.
I feel like that's still reasonable though.
That was Post Malone. But just thinking about how expensive concert prices are, even though the tickets are more expensive, you're still seeing so many people go and they're still sold out. So I know it's easy to say that just from all the success last year and like post-COVID culture with concerts being big again, how much money some people are spending. Like I know some people I know that go to like every single concert that comes to Pittsburgh. I'm like, how much money are you spending?
Yeah.
I think my max was like 130 to 150, but that was for a festival. So like,
Oh, that's
I feel like that was
reasonable.
very much worth it.
That's
I
reasonable.
don't think there was ever like too much spent. I think my concern though is like, great that we're gonna have all these tours coming out of it, but do you think that's gonna cause a downfall on new music coming out next year? Because it's kind of
Maybe.
like artists don't really release every year. Do you think there's going to be a bit of a like down point right there?
I would say so. I only found information from 2023. I originally wanted to find out like why are all these artists releasing albums, because it's very weird. It seems
Yeah.
like every week there's a new album or someone else announces a new album, and it's always like in the spring, summer. So I think everyone's trying to do like almost like fighting for the big tour of the summer now that like
Yeah. No, the
they
Eras
thought
tour's
that
over.
the Eras tour and Beyonce would not be going on tour again, but
Yeah.
it seems like they're gonna both slam right in there.
Which is really interesting because don't get me wrong, I like Taylor Swift as much as the next girl, right? Well, maybe not as much as the next girl. We've seen some of the girls. Though I would never spend $1,000 on a concert ticket. It doesn't matter if I'm seeing, the Lord himself. But, I kind of think in a way she's kind of pushing her luck, right? I mean, this is her fifth or sixth album in a row. And she's gonna go on tour again. That's obvious. Whenever this new album comes out, she's gonna go on tour again. So I wonder if we're gonna see the same, fervor in the fans, or if it was maybe just kind of like a temporary status symbol type of thing.
That's very interesting. I think Luminate kind of pointed to like the superfan really driving the sales in the music industry. And in that report, they said that I think it was 1.7, someone correct me if I'm wrong, of the wealth of the music industry, Taylor Swift owns 1.7% of it.
Just of the whole music industry.
Of the music industry as a whole, 1.7% of it.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't think she's gonna.
Talk about a girl boss, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Girl overlord.
Yeah, literally. Well, thanks again, Gavin. We'll be seeing him again later in the episode, so look out for that.
But before we finish out, it's time for one more break.
We're almost at the finish line, so stick around until the end.
It's a tough crowd.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Daybreak. My name is Samuel Parator and I am back for one last sideline slice, and today will be a good one. I have two topics for the slice today, with the first being the dawn of the new MLB season and a peek into how our Pittsburgh Pirates are doing thus far. What Pirates fans will be pleased to hear is that our Battling Buccos are off to quite a hot start in the first few weeks of the 2024 season. They kicked off the season with a 4-game series against the Miami Marlins and pulled off the full sweep, marking the first time that they had swept an opening 4-game series since 1903. With that momentum in hand, they have battled themselves to a 9-3 start and sit atop the National League Central Division without having lost a series yet. Next up, they will head to Philadelphia for a 4-game series against the Phillies from the 11th to the 14th, and then right to New York to take on the Mets in a 3-game series from the 15th to the 17th. There is quite a long season still left to play, but right now, it looks pretty great to see this kind of start from the Pirates. Our next and final topic for the sideline slice takes us to the other side of the state and from the world of sports to the world of sports entertainment, professional wrestling. World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE, just held its biggest annual event of the year this past weekend, when the 2-day spectacle that is WrestleMania made a stop at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia to celebrate the 40th edition of the event. When WWE comes to town for WrestleMania, they basically take over the entire city that they're in for the whole week with all sorts of events. This year was no different, with their launch of WWE World held in the Pennsylvania Convention Center. Over 5 days of fan experiences included hosting 2 episodes of the Pat McAfee Show on ESPN on Friday the 5th and Monday the 8th. According to a recent WWE press release, WWE World is now their highest grossing and most attended fan event ever. This WrestleMania has been dubbed the biggest WrestleMania of all time throughout the build-up and during the week, and this ended up proving to be way more than just a tagline. According to Chief Content Officer Paul Levesque, WWE smashed all sorts of records over the course of the weekend, including social media, merchandise, sponsorship, and gate. From that same press release mentioned earlier, here are some of those numbers broken down. WrestleMania 40 broke the gate record set by last year's WrestleMania 39 by 71%. Across the 2 nights of WrestleMania, 145,298 fans were in attendance, with over 70,000 each night. Viewership was also up 41% compared to last year's WrestleMania record. From a social media perspective, their channels accumulated 660 million views, and their YouTube channel saw its most viewed day ever on WrestleMania Sunday with 67 million views in 24 hours. Wells Fargo Center also hosted an episode of Friday Night SmackDown the Friday before, Monday Night Raw the night after, and an NXT Premium Live event, which is WWE's developmental brand, with all 3 of those shows setting attendance and/or gate records for their respective brands. Over the 5 events that made up WrestleMania weekend, those 3 shows aforementioned before, and the 2 nights of WrestleMania itself, 201,924 fans were in attendance. Whether you are a fan of the product or not, those numbers are simply insane, and it is quite cool that it just so happened to happen right across the way in Philadelphia. Quite the way to usher a brand new era into WWE. So, the biggest sports fans I know, what are you thinking about that?
That's crazy. I mean, I never have any, affiliation with WWE other than what you have on the TV. Mm-hmm. And I never, in any lifetime, would have thought that many people were watching it.
Yeah, I didn't know. It kind of ties in, honestly, to Gavin's story where we're talking about fervent fans, people who kind of drive industries. And, it's fascinating to think about, how an event like that probably temporarily, at least, really changed Philadelphia's economy. It
really does, and they have all sorts of numbers with every city that they've gone into. They go into usually bigger cities for this one, like Los Angeles was the one from last year.
Sure.
And we were talking a couple days ago when Friday Night SmackDown commentator Corey Graves came to the CMI.
Yeah.
He said, and it's pretty much across the board, when this business gets hot, it gets red hot. Yeah. And with seeing crossover stars like The Rock has been back for a couple of months, which is really driving a lot of those numbers. John Cena was back for WrestleMania. Those big names really drive even the casual viewer back to the product, even for just this temporary period. Absolutely. To see how this big event goes on.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. I didn't honestly know that The Rock did wrestling. Yeah. I just kind of thought he was built like that, you know what I mean? But I guess if I was built like that, I guess I would do wrestling too. So it's suitable career for him. Well, thank you very much, Sam, for everything.
Now it's time for us to share one last ray of sunshine, a Daybreak senior episode tradition, our senior video. We'd like to thank the lovely Addison Deal for putting it all together.
In case you've forgotten, Ray of Sunshine is our way of starting your day off with a smile. But today, we might actually be brought to tears. Let's see the video. I started at UView pretty much immediately my freshman year. We had the fall interest meeting, as you guys all probably know, and I'm very abrasive. So I ran right up to Taylor Spirito, who was the station manager at the time, right after the meeting, and I said, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Sam Hindman. I'm a freshman journalism major," because that's who I am. And then she told me about her show, Daybreak, and I went to the auditions to try to host the show, which was, obviously pretty ambitious being a freshman, but I didn't care because I really, at the time, wanted to be on camera. I wanted to dive into it head first, and I got the position. Welcome back to Daybreak. Before we say goodbye, we'd like to share with you this year's first ray of sunshine.
Well, got started in 2021. I was rooming with Cole, Nick at the time. They were both really involved that year before. I hadn't really heard too much about it. Went to that interest meeting and just kind of pretty much just went from there. Went to Sideline first and got involved in Daybreak a little bit more after that, after knowing that was the show that they had done more work on, and just kind of went from there. Another exciting week of NFL football is in the books, and much like its predecessor last week, week 2 did not disappoint.
Is pretty good.
I joined UView in my spring semester of my freshman year when I was alone, lonely, and had nothing to do on my COVID lockdown. and I got a random email from the station manager at the time, and I was like, you know, haven't really met anyone on campus. I felt like this was my opportunity to hop in, and came to my first Daybreak show. It was quite scary. When I saw some of the people who had shown up, and I already recognized them through other classes or groups, and I already felt like I was at home, and it was so enjoyable, and I knew I had to keep coming back.
Oh my gosh, you put the snooze sketch in here?
Hey, it's my debut, that's all I got.
On kind of a whim. I got to Point Park right after COVID, and so when I got here, I had heard that they had an audition going on for Daybreak. And so I said, all right, you know, why not? I'm gonna do it. So I auditioned, and I got the role as the host of Daybreak for a little while, and it was awesome.
Good morning, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Daybreak. I'm Brandon Krasowski.
My favorite memory definitely has to be the Pioneer Star Showcase that we recorded. It was very much not a typical UView type recording that we do, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. It was a huge set of logistics that had gone into that, and you know, the team of us had 4 cameras and everything that had to go along with it to record a 3.5 hour non-stop show. And so the production of that was absolutely insane. I absolutely loved it. And then we also got to very much enjoy the post side of it, where we got to sync everything up and just make some awesome videos out of that recording.
I think my favorite memory is like when we would do our little get-togethers, and we do our huddles. Like in news night, we would do the huddle of the 1, 2, 3 news night. I thought that was really fun.
It's got to be the satire episodes on the Daybreak shows. They're not only just fun to try to figure out what you're gonna actually, you know, put forth on camera yourself, but that day of recording and trying to, you know, not laugh while everyone else is doing their segments, even though you kind of get a glimpse if you're reading the script beforehand. But there's so many different funny things that are happening, and the amount of retakes is just insane, because you just can't not laugh at how funny some of the people are whenever you're trying to do these things.
I guess this isn't really one memory, but rather a collection of memories. Every time, post-show, that we would all go to Genoa's, and we would sit there and we would just shoot the shit for a few hours. It was always really fun, and it was a really good bonding experience. And it made it feel a lot less like I was in a club, and a lot more like I was hanging out with a group of friends.
My piece of advice for people that are either in UView or joining would be to just do it. Don't be afraid to go out there and have the opportunity. I never thought that I would have been a host of a show here at UView, but it happened, and I was scared, naturally, but I took that opportunity, and it landed me in positions that I wouldn't have thought I'd be in before. And it was super fun too. It was really fun. It was great to get to know everybody and everything. So just don't be afraid. Just do it. Don't even think about it. Just do it.
My advice, most definitely to everyone who is already in UView, with the equipment.
My advice is to take advantage of all those different opportunities and the variety of those opportunities that there are, and just main thing is just have fun with it. All the different shows are just so fun to be around and to be on, and it is a really great time, especially the more you get into it. I've definitely noticed that the longer I had been in, the more fun it got, and more close relationships you get with all the people around, if you're on the same show or not. It's been quite a ride for sure.
My piece of advice that I'd like to pass down is that everyone here has something to bring to the table, and it might not be on camera. It's most definitely not on camera for me. But everyone who absolutely loves the off-camera aspect, all of the technical aspects, it's when something goes wrong in the studio, part of the process is just trying to figure out how to fix it. And I feel like that is a very important part of broadcasting in general, or dealing with this sort of equipment. And I think having that knowledge to be able to figure out what's wrong in a sort of high tense environment, I think everyone here has that ability, and I have faith in everyone.
Stop thinking too hard. stop thinking too hard about where you want to go and what you want to do and who you want to be. And instead, focus on living in the moment and existing with the people who are around you now, with the life that you have now, because you're gonna be okay and it's gonna be fine.
Daybreak was the first show that I ever did for UView, and I remember the first time I was ever on camera for UView, and Sam and Cole were the biggest supporters throughout it all. They've always made me feel good in what I do, whether it's on camera, behind the scenes, writing. They've always been there to support me, make me laugh, and honestly just become dear friends and honestly family to me that I'm gonna miss more than anything.
One thing I am really going to miss about the Daybreak seniors is just their ability to make the space so welcoming and so open for everyone. They've always made it such a great place for everyone to come in and hang out and be with friends and make something that we're all really proud of. And I just love how every day they come in and they work hard to make that environment for everyone and make everyone feel welcome.
Daybreak was just a really welcoming environment for anyone that was like first starting out in UView. Cole and Sam were both really nice to me when I was just a little freshman, bro. And they were super nice, and so was everyone else at UView. Super cool, awesome, welcoming environment.
Now we gotta talk.
What am I supposed to do?
Crazy.
Am I supposed to talk after that?
Not even a take black or anything out. Okay.
Nope,
okay.
straight
The
in.
cumulative is on.
My,
Well,
my goodness.
well guy, well team.
Well, team,
It's been a run.
what a ride.
It's been a
It's been
run.
a wild run.
I love you guys so much.
I love you
Love you too.
I really do.
And every single person in this studio, and I'm not gonna name names because I'm gonna lose sleep if I forget anyone, but it's been the best 4 years of my life, and it couldn't have been.
Can't have been any better.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I came to UView as a sophomore when I was like fully finding out who I was and coming into my new major and like really going into adulthood. And now looking back at little Gavin and little Sam and Cole, it's like we became adults, and I'm glad that we did it and we were able to create something with everybody, and for everyone here, everyone behind the camera, to be our friends also, who went from complete strangers to, oh, that kid at UView that now comes over to my apartment all the time, and I live with Cole now, and, and Sam, I don't want to stop living with him. That, you know, time comes.
Maybe
Yeah.
the
Change
real
comes.
Daybreak was the friends we made along
We
the
made
way.
along the way.
Definitely got to echo those sentiments ever since sophomore year when this one dragged me to the interest meeting. Because everyone was just like, you should just go and see.
Yeah.
And you got your personalized segment,
Yeah.
and it couldn't have been
Being
better.
able to see myself grow on that camera and build my own segment is quite wild. And with all of the friends that I've made on and off camera, it's a tough one to leave.
Definitely.
Ready? Deep breath. Take it away.
Even though it might seem too soon, that's all we have for our final episode of Daybreak. We'd like to thank all of our cast and crew for everything that they've done for us.
And we'd like to thank your future producers, Addison Deal and Juliana Brock, for their constant support and encouragement. We are confident that Daybreak will continue to thrive in their very capable hands. So, for the very last time, I'm Samantha Heineman.
And I'm Cole Schultes, hoping your news is great news. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at graduation.
Back.